Joby Warrick, Black Flags, The Rise of ISIS. In Black Flags, The Rise of ISIS, author Joby Warrick takes us on a gripping journey through the emergence and development of the most terrifying and brutal organization of recent times, the Islamic State or ISIS. With careful attention to detail, Warrick provides an in-depth account of the people involved, the pivotal events, and the political contexts that shaped the group. Two prominent and influential characters take center stage in this narrative: Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, who laid the foundation for the organization, and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the radical scholar who dramatically reshaped it. The summary unpacks key highlights leading to the formation of ISIS, its objectives, and the frightening ramifications of its rapid rise.
Birth of a terrorist leader. In 1966, the infamous al-Qaeda leader known as Zarqawi was born in Zarqa, Jordan. His introduction to the extremist landscape began in the 1990s when he joined the Holy War in Afghanistan against the Soviet-backed government. After his return to Jordan and subsequent arrest in 1994, Zarqawi's imprisonment alongside fellow Islamists only strengthened their radical beliefs. Despite his reputation as a dangerous inmate, King Abdullah II of Jordan released Zarqawi in 1999 in an attempt to reconcile with various political factions. Little did the king know, this decision would eventually culminate in the formation of ISIS, led by the empowered and influential Zarqawi. In the mid-1990s, a man named Zarqawi ventured to Afghanistan to fight in the Holy War against the Soviet Union's pro-Moscow government. After returning to his native country of Jordan, he was arrested on March 29, 1994, for planning a terrorist attack on an Israeli outpost as an act of vengeance for the killing of 20 Muslims by a Jewish extremist earlier that year. Alongside 12 other men who had been caught with illegal weapons, Zarqawi was sent to Al-Jaffa prison. Rather than buckle under the pressure of incarceration, Zarqawi and his Islamist cellmates found solace in the words of the Quran, fueled by their growing hatred for the United States and Israel. Unbeknownst to their jailers, Zarqawi swiftly emerged as a leader within his group, earning the respect and loyalty of his fellow extremists. In a surprising turn of events, Jordan's King Abdullah II released Zarqawi and many of his associates in 1999 as part of an effort to mend relationships between the kingdom and various political factions. The newly crowned king sought to pacify the Islamists and released 16 Muslim Brotherhood members as a gesture of goodwill. Regrettably, the king's actions inadvertently granted Zarqawi the freedom to cultivate his extremist following outside prison walls, setting the stage for the eventual rise of the infamous terrorist organization, ISIS. Zarqawi's evasive ploys. Upon his release, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi deceived Jordanian intelligence officers by claiming to pursue beekeeping in Pakistan. Instead, he ventured to Afghanistan where he met and collaborated with al-Qaeda's founder, Osama bin Laden. Together, they established a training camp for Jordanian Islamist volunteers, which later moved to the northeastern mountains of Iraq as a response to the U.S. invasion in Afghanistan. Zarqawi's actions eventually caught the attention of the Bush administration, but hesitation to act would ultimately cost them a valuable opportunity. Abu Musab al-Zarqawi's cunning can be seen in how he fooled Jordanian intelligence officers at Amman's Queen Alia International Airport. Claiming to head towards Pakistan for honeybee farming, he actually ventured to Afghanistan, where he met with Osama bin Laden. Despite initial hesitation, bin Laden soon understood Zarqawi's potential in expanding al-Qaeda's influence. Together, they created a terrorist training camp for Jordanian Islamist recruits, providing financial backing and supervision. However, the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan in 2001 forced Zarqawi to find a new sanctuary for his activities, the northeastern mountains of Iraq. He began to steadily construct an intricate terrorist web in this new region. By 2002, Zarqawi's efforts grabbed the attention of senior Bush administration officials when he was implicated in the assassination of American diplomat Lawrence Foley in Jordan. Somewhat under the radar in the West, Zarqawi had been actively aligning his forces with the Iraqi terrorist group Ansar al-Islam, eventually establishing a small Islamic theocracy. During this time, U.S. intelligence recognized Zarqawi's location and suggested a preemptive strike on his camp. However, the Bush administration, preoccupied with preparations for war against Iraq, feared such action would disrupt their plans. Consequently, the indecision surrounding Zarqawi squandered a significant chance to strike a blow against terrorism. Unraveling post-invasion Iraq. The U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003, founded on the search for weapons of mass destruction and connections between Saddam Hussein and al-Qaeda terrorists, yielded no proof in support of these claims. Nevertheless, post-invasion Iraq experienced a surge in terrorism and lawlessness. Zarqawi's Ansar al-Islam group evolved into a formidable terrorist network with the support of embittered Iraqis, members of Saddam Hussein's former army, and individuals from across the Muslim world. In under a year, Zarqawi's organization had the capability of executing large-scale attacks in rapid succession. Though the United States invaded Iraq in 2003 to neutralize threats posed by weapons of mass destruction and Saddam Hussein's alleged ties to al-Qaeda, no concrete evidence was ever discovered. Despite the lack of proof, President Bush declared victory just 2 months into the conflict. However, the situation in Iraq quickly deteriorated as the country became increasingly insecure and lawless. In the wake of the invasion, Iraq saw a wave of bombings. Key targets included the Jordanian embassy and the UN building in Baghdad, both of which were attacked in August 2003. These events were attributed to Zarqawi's Ansar al-Islam terrorist network. But how had the group managed to become so destructive? Zarqawi had transformed his small organization into an extensive terrorist network with powerful allies. Surprisingly, while the United States had no definitive proof to justify the invasion, post-invasion Iraq was teeming with terrorists. By the end of 2003, the Bush administration admitted that the country contained significantly more al-Qaeda-style terror groups than it had prior to the invasion. Amidst the pervasive chaos and anarchy, Zarqawi found the freedom to expand his influence. His operations were bolstered by the support of thousands of embittered Iraqis, people from across the Muslim world, and even former members of Saddam Hussein's army. In just under a year, Zarqawi had established a formidable terrorist network, enabling him to carry out large-scale attacks in quick succession. Unlikely alliance of terror. In 2004, Zarqawi sought Osama bin Laden's support, but al-Qaeda's leader hesitated due to Zarqawi's extreme brutality. It was only when bin Laden needed a high-impact win that he joined forces with Zarqawi, establishing al-Qaeda in Iraq, AQI. In early 2004, the ambitious Zarqawi had one goal in mind: to unite his organization with the infamous al-Qaeda, thereby amplifying their power and reach. As he penned a letter to Osama bin Laden, he banked on the hope that the al-Qaeda founder would leap at the chance to collaborate. However, Zarqawi's penchant for savagery, particularly his indiscriminate targeting of innocent Arabs, gave bin Laden pause. Undeterred by bin Laden's reluctance, Zarqawi continued to unleash horrific terrorist attacks throughout Iraq. One such chilling incident was the murder of American radio technician Nicholas Evan Berg in 2004. Captured by Zarqawi's group, Berg's lifeless body was later discovered on a desolate freeway, his severed head gruesomely displayed below his corpse. A video surfaced soon after, showing Zarqawi personally executing Berg, which led to Zarqawi's disturbing moniker, the Sheikh of the Slaughterers. This brutal modus operandi was his hallmark, with Zarqawi's group carrying out countless executions and deadly suicide bombings targeting both foreigners and Arabs. As bin Laden weighed the pros and cons of partnering with Zarqawi, it was the need for a significant win that finally tipped the scales in favor of collaboration. Although bin Laden never truly approved of Zarqawi, he could not ignore his potential usefulness. In an audio broadcast, bin Laden publicly endorsed his alliance with the ruthless extremist, thus cementing the formation of a new organization, al-Qaeda in Iraq, AQI. This unlikely bond between Zarqawi and bin Laden would go on to send shockwaves through the geopolitical landscape, altering the course of global terrorism. The fall of Zarqawi. The historic election of Iraq's National Assembly on January 30, 2005, was met with resistance from terrorist leader Zarqawi, who made relentless efforts to sabotage the event. His brutal attacks, including the slaughter of 60 people in a Jordanian hotel, led to the growing disdain of ordinary Muslims, further solidifying alliances against him. Zarqawi's eventual downfall in 2006 came as U.S. forces carefully monitored his movements, using information extracted from a high-ranking insider in collaboration with Jordanian intelligence. On January 30, 2005, Iraq witnessed a monumental milestone, the election of its first-ever National Assembly. Despite fervently opposing the election and inciting violence against political candidates and polling stations, terror leader Zarqawi's efforts ultimately drove Sunni citizens into terror and invalidated the election. Zarqawi's brutal and barbaric attacks targeted not only Westerners but also fellow Muslims. Consequently, ordinary Muslims began to distance themselves from his violent tactics, leading to increased reports on the terrorist network's activities. This development allowed U.S. Special Forces, under the leadership of General McChrystal, to infiltrate Zarqawi's command structure, resulting in the neutralization of several terrorists. Nevertheless, Zarqawi's most significant mistake was orchestrating a trio of suicide bombings on Jordanian hotels popular with foreign diplomats in November 2005. The senseless murder of 60 individuals, including numerous Arab wedding guests, sparked outrage and determination in Jordan to combat terrorism alongside U.S. forces. As counter-terrorism efforts intensified, Zarqawi's location was finally pinpointed. A critical piece of information came from a high-ranking insider arrested by Jordanian intelligence. Interrogation revealed that Zarqawi regularly met with Sheikh Abd al-Rahman, a religious advisor in Baghdad. This revelation prompted U.S. forces to track the Imam's movements meticulously. This strategic surveillance reaped rewards on June 7, 2006. American fighter jets successfully targeted Zarqawi's safe house, severely injuring him. Upon arrival, U.S. ground troops confirmed Zarqawi's death, putting an end to a brutal chapter in the fight against terrorism. Syria's descent into chaos. Unaffected by the Arab Spring revolutions initially, Syria spiraled into chaos in 2011 when President Bashar al-Assad responded to calls for reform with violence. As the country's institutions crumbled, the struggling terrorist group Islamic State of Iraq, ISI, capitalized on the opportunity, gaining resources, fighters, and a safe haven. With the rise of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, a highly educated Islamic scholar, the group found a strong leader. Baghdadi utilized his religious authority and lineage to provide justification for terrorism, propelling ISI's pursuits of an Islamic State. In 2010, Syria remained untouched by the Arab Spring, but by 2011, political unrest transformed into mayhem. President Bashar al-Assad countered demands for change with brutal force, driving the nation toward a civil war and the eventual collapse of its security institutions. This chaos provided an ideal environment for the struggling Islamic State of Iraq, ISI. ISI, once a prominent terror organization, found itself weakened and in need of a resurgence. The destabilized Syrian landscape offered access to resources, fighters, and shelter. Moreover, the group gained a formidable new leader in Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. A highly educated Islamic scholar, Baghdadi leveraged his religious expertise and connections to the Prophet Muhammad to legitimize acts of violence, positioning himself as the perfect caliph. As a result, ISI advanced its mission of establishing an Islamic State. The rise of ISIS. In the midst of the Syrian civil war in 2012, thousands of religious Muslims from Sunni Arab countries and North Africa joined the jihadists resisting Assad, with Arabs donating money and supplies to the cause. ISI grew, attracting radicalized Muslims worldwide. By 2013, Baghdadi's forces, the best armed and best trained, were on the rise. The Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham, ISIS, was officially formed on April 9, 2013, acting like a nation-state with various departments. Raqqa, Syria, became the group's capital, and a global caliphate was declared in 2014 under the name Islamic State. By late 2014, ISIS controlled vast territories in Iraq and Syria, poised for continued expansion.
Joby Warrick's Black Flags. The Rise of ISIS offers the readers a solid comprehension of the significant events that led to the formation of the Islamic State, and its distressing growth as it carved its way through Iraq and Syria. The author uncovers the evolution of the group's core leaders and their motives. Zarqawi, a ruthless terrorist leader, built the foundation as he sought support from al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, later taking advantage of the chaos in Iraq. Baghdadi expanded the ambitions of the group, declaring the establishment of a worldwide caliphate with Raqqa as its capital. The book undeniably leaves the readers with a chilling apprehension of the relentless expansion of ISIS, and the grave threats it continues to pose.